now. Hey everyone, Shaune, Corbett, True West Realty Group. We've got another special guest. We've got Eric Hargrove. He's down there in New Orleans. Most of you have probably heard of that city. It's the Big Easy. We've been there a number of times. As disclosure, Eric is actually my first cousin of my wife. So we are related in that sense by marriage. And I've got a good chance to get to know Eric. Probably, I guess it's been about 20 years or so. It's been a long time now. So I've got to watch him grow up and become a man, go through his challenges. I'm going to tease him a little bit, but he's got a really good story. The reason why I wanted to have him on here, and I think he has a lot of things that will relate to some of you out there as far as going through something really difficult or just going through a life-altering experience. So I want to give Eric a platform and a place to kind of tell his story, and then what that has meant for him and how it's impacted his view on a number of things that's important to a lot of you out there. You know, dieting, exercise, your mindset, all those type of things we're going to kind of dive into. Anyway, so Eric, if you could start us off, kind of tell us about yourself, your background, where you're from, and then we'll kind of take it to the next step.
First off, that's a hell of an introduction. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that well. Yeah, I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. Went to public school and elementary school, and I attended Catholic school in middle school and through high school. I graduated from Jesuit down here in New Orleans. Fairly prestigious school, you know. I'm really grateful for my time there and at Christian Brothers. You know, they did introduce me to the Christian and Catholic religion, which I know is a particular interest of yours. And so I'm sure I have some opinions on the education in that department when it comes to the, you know, developing faith and just a knowledge of what Christianity is all about and teaching youth. But, you know, for another day, maybe.
We'll see.
So we can get into it now. I mean, if you just want to go into a religious topic immediately, I'll give you my opinion on how the curriculum was taught over there.
I guess let me ask a kind of a fun question. So if you had children today, and I know that's kind of a hit or miss for you. You haven't fully committed to whether you were or not, but let's say you did, and you brought children into the world today, would you put them in the public schools where you are now in Metairie, which is outside of New Orleans?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
So to vote down, the public schools in the New Orleans area here are pretty abysmal, is what I've heard.
Well, it depends. It depends on, I mean, if I was in Orleans Parish, then potentially, because there are some prestigious schools out in Orleans, but in the suburbs, they don't really have good school districts, so to speak, like y'all have in Dallas. I mean, y'all have these very, you know, prestigious public schools over there in some of your localities, but
that's interesting, right? So any big city in Texas generally is a failure in the school district. Total failure. Any school district in a major city. It would be Tarrant County, Fort Worth ISD, Dallas ISD, Houston ISD, even San Antonio ISD. If you get outside of that and you get into the suburbs, especially the way it works on the north side on most suburbs, these are some generalizations, but they generally find the best schools are typically on the north side of these cities. So in our area, we live in Flower Mound. We're in Louisville Independent School District, very good school district. You know, we have no problem sending our kids to school. The amount we pay in property taxes, we might as well be sending them to private school. So, you know, and I know it's a different kind of relationship there, but it's interesting that you could be in Orleans Parish and go to those type of schools. And there might be some that just are so distinctive, like being on those old houses that are really expensive. I'm sure they have some say on what happens in the schools in those areas.
Yeah, they really do. There's actually just a few good charter and magnet programs out in Orleans Parish that don't really exist, to my knowledge, in Jefferson Parish. They might have rectified that. I mean, I don't keep up with the Jefferson Parish school system. It's not been a part of my life for a very long time.
Sure. Yeah, well, you went to Jesuit for a reason, and I'm sure in the end it worked out better for you, at least maybe education-wise, and what the results were. And we could talk about that, but I really want to focus on some of the things that are more really impactful for you. So you finished Jesuit, you went to LSU, right?
Yes, Katrina hit, and that was my freshman year at LSU. So I'm not going to blame Katrina for not being successful there. I made some dubious life choices at times when it came to applying myself academically. So went to LSU, eventually left LSU and went to Baton Rouge Community College. Took school quite a bit more seriously through there. It wasn't that hard though, compared to Jesuit and LSU. I didn't really have to apply myself, and eventually I just got homesick, moved back to New Orleans. Baton Rouge is it's a college town. It kind of revolves just around drinking and partying at night. And, at some point you kind of grow out of that and move forward. And so when I got to New Orleans, I went to Delgado, and I actually got within one course of finishing my associate's degree, but somewhat poor time management, and also just be internship was the name of the course, or advanced accounting projects. I had to do one of those two things to finish it up, and I had an actual job at this point. I was comfortable, probably a little too comfortable if we're being honest, a lot too comfortable if we're being honest. And so and that's still there. That's still there for me. If I feel like it's a necessity in my life. But from there, I moved into, I bounced around, did some odds and end jobs, website company, Domino's Pizza, and then ended up working at a payroll company and was there for 8 years. And very family oriented atmosphere. It was very easy to be comfortable in that setting. And then all hell broke loose. So
So we had this situation, right, where you had this incredibly terrible healthcare scare. Are there things that kind of led up to it? Did you have signs or anything that would identify that this would have been something that comes up, or it just hit you overnight?
I did have a couple of them. Looking back on it, in the moment, that it was kind of tough to see. I mean, to be honest, this happened post-pandemic. When the pandemic started, I made a promise to myself. I was like, basically, life has been put on pause for everybody. And so this is an opportunity for me to catch up, to handle some of my BS that I hadn't handled as an adult, and really grow up and mature, start taking care of myself in a much different way. And so that was a promise I made to myself at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was actually in my head feeling like I was absolutely destroying what I was doing. But I ended up, pushing myself a little bit too hard, too fast, and and so I started putting on weight. To get back to your question, I started really there was a couple signs. I started putting on weight. And I had a tough time always putting on muscle, and I'm physically pushing myself really hard at this point, before the heart failure. And so sorry, I lost my train of thought where, this is, I'm going
Sure.
back into a story into the
That's
past. And so after pushing myself like that, I really started putting on a lot of muscle, and like it looked like muscle. It looked like, hey, I finally figured out how to apply. I could never hit higher than 135, and then all of a sudden I'm 150, 155, and basically my body was retaining water. So that sudden weight gain in muscle, for my body that is used to being slight of frame, was one of the warning signs. And so I basically started retaining fluid in the entirety of my body. And so it started drowning my heart. And then I thought I had pneumonia for about a week, was doing at-home treatments. My mom had this breathing machine that could really help through any sort of respiratory illness. And so really at the end of the day, I thought I had pneumonia and I was just toughing it out and doing what they told me to do after going to urgent care. But in reality, I had heart failure. I ended up at the hospital. And so they treat pneumonia as a dehydration issue. They ended up pumping water into me to rehydrate my system. And when that happened, they completely flooded my heart. And so they did an echo on me and a sonogram actually, and we're looking at it, and I'll never forget this. And I hope to never hear this again from a doctor, but one of the doctors just goes, "O-O-F." And I was like, "What do you mean O-F? What, that doesn't sound good." And from there, it just got progressively worse. And so they eventually had to move me to another hospital. And
so they're looking at a sonogram and they saw that your heart was full of water. Is that what the issue was for them?
they could see the heart failure immediately, and it wasn't just heart failure, it was bad heart failure. So to get back to your original question, wrap that up, and then we can kind of get in the next part of it. If you're really, really, really sick, even if you can tough it out, probably best to always follow up with the doctors. And if things don't get better, following up with doctors. I took one opinion, ran with it, and just thought I could gut it out, and it ended up almost killing me. So the warning signs I would say is, if there's an illness, like there's a lot of congestion in my chest, I was coughing up a lot of things, and heart failure is more common now too because of our diets and the amount of salt we eat and stuff like that. And so if you start feeling like you're really retaining water, that is probably a very bad sign. Keeping water off of my body is one of the ways that I treat and have overcome it. So just something for people to think about.
Okay. So you made a move to the other hospital?
So I go to the other hospital, and at this point, I'm completely out of it. Apparently, like I'm turning blue and purple. I got to run into the nurses later that admitted me, and so I got an emergency balloon pump put in my groin artery. I had a Swan catheter put in my neck. Apparently, about half the team didn't even think that would be enough to keep me alive. I was in that rough a shape. They thought that I was going to require even more emergency surgery. And then the other half thought that I might be strong enough to hold it off. And gratefully, thankfully, I am and was at that time. But it did, when I got admitted to the other hospital and they were doing those operations on me, they basically said, I looked halfway dead already, like I was floating off of the operating table. It was really shaky at that moment in time.
I'm sure you remember none of this, right? I mean,
I don't remember any of this. No. I did hear stories from the nurses after the fact, and you know my mom, and so apparently she was kind of being a little overly verbose with the staff, and I turned and I was just like, "Mom, give it a rest," and something like that. And the nurses were like, "Okay, maybe, all right, he's starting to come around a little bit," like. And so they're telling me stories like that about when I was on the table. And actually, when I got to see them, they had to run this wire through me, and you could see inside of I could see on these screens my chest cavity, and my whole torso area, and there was this mechanical line like from Matrix just running all around inside. It was big, literal figure eights doing all sorts of twists and turns, and you can see it on the screen, and they're doing all this scoping. And those ladies actually said when I walked in, they told me I made I just made their week. They had the most beaming smile on their face. They didn't even recognize me a week later. And I'm not a hard person, I have this long hair, like I'm a pretty easy dude to recognize. That's how in rough shape I was. And so, yeah. And from there, things got a little more interesting. I don't know which direction you want me to.
But let's talk about, so from that experience, obviously that's a near death. I mean, you were there. You were all the way at the end. You came out of it, thank God. And it's changed. I'm sure after leaving that, it probably took some time to really kind of think through this. Like, what really happened? What do I need to do? And then you sure probably had some soul searching, right? So what things really came to mind that you really want to focus on and started reshaping the way you think about?
So I actually had a pretty healthy mindset from the outset of this, and that really helped me get where I needed to go.
Meaning, from the time it happened, you immediately jumped in. You're like, dude, I'm changing everything.
Yeah, and I was in the ICU, and every time these nurses come in, I would joke around with them, positive attitude, beaming smile. In my head, I'd known my dad's heart failure had gotten a little bit better over the years, and I knew it was possible for the ejection fraction in the heart to heal. So in my head, from get-go, from the second I woke up in that bed, it was, how do I get back? How do I find my way back to where I was and be even better than before? I looked at it as an opportunity, Shaune, from the get-go. I told myself, this is going to be the best and the worst thing to ever happen to me by the time I'm done. And I believed in it. I brought that attitude to the whole process from Jump Street. I'd have nurses and doctors. I didn't have a single doctor tell me that I could beat heart failure. So that, everyone, the nurses and the doctors, because I'd fallen so far, had told me, you need to prepare yourself for surgery. You need to mentally prepare yourself for that. That's more than likely what's coming. And I had one doctor tell me that he had patients that had dipped as low as 5% and come back. And he said they were military and they're cut from a different cloth, basically. And to me, in my head, I took that. I still am going to track down this doctor once I am fully healthy and say thank you, because he at least gave me the respect to say it was possible, even if he wasn't sure if I was capable of pulling it off. And he kind of even, gave me that challenge. But I was like, okay, you think but I'll show you how tough I am, And so that was just a mentality that I carried throughout the heart failure. I failed a couple times, Shaune, and ended up back in the hospital. And the real soul searching began after the third time ending up in the ICU. I'd spent about a month in the ICU.
Let's do timeline. So this originally happened about 2 years ago?
Yes, March 2021, late March 2021, early April.
And then you went back in to the hospital multiple times from just different things that caused your heart to fail again?
Yes. I still was doing a few things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. I mean, you have to understand at this point, the first time the heart failure happens, you're talking about a complete overhaul of every single thing that you do in your life. your diet changes, your exercise changes, your mental and emotional health becomes a
A
little more.
priority, maybe a priority instead of a responder.
Yeah, you have to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally to be able to pull something like that off. So keeping myself in the right mindset and the right headspace was a priority to me. And so, but we're talking like I had prescriptions that I've like been prescribed by doctors that I just had to cold turkey, and some of them weren't, easy. Like I was prescribed Adderall, and and you try telling someone that's been taking Adderall for a few years, just stop, you know, and and so things like that I was surprisingly equipped to handle. Um, it was, but it did take me. I thought I was a little bit tougher than I was, and that I could give myself a little more leeway than I should have the first time, and even the second time I didn't tighten the screws well enough. But my point is that there's all these changes that you have to make. It's so comprehensive, doing everything like that, just the drop of a dime. It's not really realistic. Building yourself back up from the ground up. You don't just wake up the next day and you're like, bang, I'm a whole new person that's ready to just conquer life, and heart failure and all the complications that come with this. So it was a gradual setting of, making some mistakes, acknowledging those mistakes in myself, and constantly working towards the goal of completely revamping my life in a way that's sustainable. That was
Sure.
that was a huge thing for me, was find a routine that fits you, that is sustainable into the future. Um, and so after the third time, I had gotten a 24-hour IV put into my arm, and so I had to carry this backpack around, and this was pumping medicine into my heart to force it to contract, to force it to work. So my heart couldn't heal while I was on this medicine, but the medicine was so effective at getting my heart to keep doing what it was doing, that it gave me a little breathing room to make mistakes and really fine tune everything that I needed to fine tune, and really just look inward and change routines in my life. Low salt diet, the type of exercise I was doing, everything. This medicine just bought me a little extra time, and I needed it because there wasn't going to be a fourth try. Fourth try was the LVAD, or a new heart, the mechanical heart, or a new real heart.
What do you call it?
An LVAD is the mechanical heart. And funny thing enough, it actually pumps blood constantly through your body. It is consistently, but like you don't have a pulse anymore. So the LVAD was a huge quality of life drop off. No more swimming, all these physical activities become, I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm getting back on that softball field come hell or high water. I worked my butt off in the pandemic to get in shape to play softball. I am going to eventually get there. And yeah, and I don't know, man. It's guide me here where you want me to go.
I wanted to talk about, so I was going to try to find that video of you shooting baskets, just I was going to forward that and play it. That's fun. Maybe I can find it and play that in a minute. So we got diet, right? So what specifically did you want to reshape and create for your diet? You mentioned high salt is an issue. That's what caused a lot of heart disease. What specifically did you need to rule out and change out? And maybe some of it affects you psychologically. It's not just the physical part, but sometimes you eat bad things and it will negatively affect you in other ways as well. So I want you to kind of talk about why diets become a priority for you or how you eat.
It is a huge priority for me. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a big like meal prep person. I'm more of a food is a source of energy. Uh, it's just a necessary thing that you have to put into your body to get it to respond
Yep.
the way that you want your body to respond.
If you use it as fuel, right? We think of it as fuel, not for flavor necessarily.
Fuel and medicine. Fuel and medicine. That's how I look at food. Now at this that's March 10th, 2023 attitude. But really what I had to do from the beginning, it's a lot of label searching. If you go look at how much salt's in all the foods you may, eat in general.
Is that your priority? Your number one thing that you review is the amount of sodium content?
So sodium makes you retain water. And
okay, so that's your challenge, right? So retaining water, it was the sign that you had a problem, big problem.
Correct.
And you got to avoid that. Okay. That's why for you specifically, it becomes maybe a bigger, gotcha. Okay. So what other diet things do you recommend or suggest or has become a big change for you?
So originally it was just meats, veggies, fruits, and my secret weapon was cheese, because you can get a lot of protein and a lot of calcium from cheese. And it's got a decent amount of sodium in it, but not an insane amount to where you can put cheese on everything, like, all your veggies and meats, and still stay under your 2,300 milligrams of salt a day. You just kind of, and then you'll end up putting a lot of really healthy, high protein, high fat, high calcium diet, all these other things. And so where I've gone now, where I'm at in 2023 is the end game was I do a lot of vegan stuff nowadays. I'm not vegan. I will still eat meat. But the vast majority of my diet is focused around being, the vegan diet. I eat a lot of chia seeds. I don't know if you've heard about chia seeds.
Really? No, you texted me that. I know that's part of your dietary plan was the chia seed.
Yeah, I just throw them down into my gullet and treat it like I'm taking 1,000 little chia seed pills, and swig it, just keep shoveling it into my mouth. They're loaded with protein. They have omega-3 fatty acids. They've got calcium. They've got all these. They're high on fiber, so it's really good for your intestinal system, and it keeps the pipes clean and moving. And so that's kind of like my snacky. If you don't want to eat real food right now, substitute chia seeds and before eating the real food, and then. I'll eat the chia seeds while I'm at the gym. I'll eat them at night. I stay high on like spinach. I eat a lot of veggies. I try to just keep a very diverse portfolio in my diet. Lots of spinach, carrots, a lot of different fruits, pineapples, watermelon, raspberries, and then I use a lot of vegan burger meat as well. It's actually, if you try it, I actually like it way more than regular burger meat now.
You don't really eat meat at all, is that the case?
No, I get a $5 biggie bag from Wendy's every day.
You still cover that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just an economical and quick, little snack meal to get in the afternoon for me.
You order the fries, you say no salt?
No. Well, I mean, my heart at this point is probably have a healthier heart than the vast majority of Americans.
Well, I tease because I don't know if you remember, Carol used to do that all the time. Your grandma.
Oh no, mom does that still too.
Does she? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do that not because they don't want salt, it's because they want fresh fries.
Yes.
It's a trick you can play with the fast food people. If you order no salt, they'll give you fresh fries that way.
Yeah.
They build it with the salt, it's easier. Talk about exercise. So your regimen, is it every day? Is it twice a day?
Oh, it is every single day. I have the two biggest players in my exercise routine are basketball and dancing and singing. I think dancing is an incredibly healthy exercise. It's very free flowing. You know, you're able to just kind of, you know,
Where do you dance at? Are you like in a club, or are you doing? Do you go in the mornings? You got a place you can go in. What do you do?
I just in my house. I just am constantly, you know, listening to music, which I use a lot as a tool for perspective and teaching myself lessons. And there's all these songs that I've compiled in the last 3 years to try to, you know, rebuild myself. And they remind me of lessons I've learned. And so I use that music a lot in my exercise routine. I'll listen to music while I'm playing basketball. Uh, I'll listen to music obviously while I'm dancing around, and I I'll dance in public. I'll dance on the basketball court while I'm playing basketball. I just like, it's just a healthy activity to me for the body and the soul. And it's a very flexible activity. You know, I try to get stretches in a day. I try to do some weight training, like weight bearing exercises, pull ups, push ups, and then starting to mess around with some dumbbells because I want to put on more muscle for the basketball court. But really, I mean, I play basketball 3 to 4 hours a day, which at 36 is, you know, my body is keeping up with it somehow. I've learned enough about my body over the last year and a half to really be able to push it in directions that I didn't think I would ever be able to push it before, and it's responding well. And so my exercise routine is more than just an routine to me. It's also a lifestyle, a way of life. I'm also working on the things I'm passionate about and I love. You know, I love basketball. I love music. Doing these things and practicing on them and putting repetition into them has really made me a much better basketball player and dancer. Like I have videos that I'm going to eventually start posting that are just of me dancing. I'm not ashamed. I'll do it in public too.
Well, yeah, I know you. You sang all the words to "I Run" by Flock of Seagulls. I'll never forget that. The '80s band, a lot of verses in there.
Shaune, I think 60% of my memory is taken up by songs, unfortunately. I can probably sing a few thousand songs that are stuck in my head from front to back almost. So that's how heavily influenced my life.
Funny, I haven't done much on any of these podcasts. I've got a gift that I can sing as well. And I don't think I can sing. I think I can mimic incredibly well, but I can't remember words. I can't follow the words of the songs and stuff like that. So I always forget where they leave off in the next verses. The only songs I really know well are the ones I sing for my kids, you know, because I sing a few songs for them. And they always ask me to sing the song. So let's talk about attitude and mindset. You know, what kind of things have changed for you since this?
So my work ethic and my discipline, for one, is completely revamped. I really don't have a lot of free time and stuff anymore because I am constantly chasing my dreams now. I don't take life for granted anymore. Every day is, you know, a new opportunity to push myself, and I don't have a lot of time. You know, I'm behind everybody in what I'm trying to accomplish. You know, if I want to get better at basketball and become relevant at all, if I want to get better at music and become relevant at all, you know, or social media posting and content creating, you have to put the reps in. You know, I do a lot of, I'm really hard on myself, but I also really take the time to sit in the moment and slow down and just appreciate life and really carry a positive self-confident attitude Um, uh, Another big priority of mine is just being kind to other people. Um, I really, my life motto is kind of just like have fun and be kind. It's really not that hard to not do things that are off-putting to other people if you put the right type of effort into it and you care about it the right way. And so I try to just be what other people need, someone to be in their life. I have friends that have issues that come to me for advice, and I make sure to not let those issues define them. I make sure to not let my issues define me. I mean, I've at this point, I have all but erased heart failure as a plot line from my life, and that was a goal for me. Um, and my public image and how people view me. I really the biggest change is I really want to get after it. I really want to apply myself and just fail or succeed spectacularly at something, you know. And the result isn't the point. It's just being able to try. That's the only thing I ask of myself every day is, are you trying? Did you give this day everything that you had to give? Because some days you just don't have it to give, you know? And as long as I can answer that question with honesty every night, I can put my head on that pillow and, you know, love myself for what I gave to that day. If I'm able to be kind to people and make a positive influence and a positive impact on other people's lives, it's a big deal to me. I really got knocked down pretty hard after basically I had to step back away from work um, and really concentrate on this health issue. It just wasn't feasible for me to conquer it while working at the same time. And once that fourth, once that third time came around and I knew there wouldn't be a fourth, that became the biggest priority in my life. I had to be selfish on some levels, or I was gonna die or have a huge quality drop off in life. And so,
You talk about dreams. So do you have something specific in mind, or is it wherever music or dance or basketball? It's just wherever those take you, or do you have something specific in mind?
so my goal right now with the basketball is I see I've never done any sort of competitive 5-on-5 basketball as an adult, but I have a control over my body and my muscles and just an understanding of my body now because of what I went through. And so I've picked up basketball at an incredible rate. I mean, I'm legitimately a 60-70% 3-point shooter at the gym now. Like I can shoot, and people are noticing, and people don't leave me open anymore, and so I'm starting to bump and get in there, into the paint a little bit more, stuff like that. And just always trying to improve my game. Just being there, just being on that court every day is going to make me better because I am constantly trying to get reps in. I'll just sit under the rim and pass to people so they can take shots just to get passing reps in, and it's just this the amount of growth that I've seen in 2 months in my game is staggering to me. I, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm able to teach myself what's going on at a really high level right now. And so the possible dream for that would be to put on 20-30 pounds of muscle, be enough of a sharpshooter that I could go play in Europe, for maybe a year or two, just to have that life experience. And also, if I become elite at anything in this basketball realm, like I think there's a chance I could become an elite shooter, and um, when you do things at an elite level, people tend to, eventually that cream rises to the top and people start to see things. So whether that gives me other opportunities into coaching or even trying to do the impossible and make a community college squad or a D3 squad at 36, the story writes itself with everything I've been through. Um, it would, it would, I just think it would be cool. Like who else would try something like that, to even have those type of dreams after.
What happens is, even if it's not really a possibility, and not that to say it couldn't. I mean, I don't think age is really, there's a factor in our ability athletically, age-wise, but it does, what it does is it drives you to something greater than what you're normally capable of, which opens other opportunities as you get there, right? Same thing like doing podcasts. I've been wanting to do this for years. All I did is just jumped on somebody else's, and then I realized I could do it. And now I just do it through repetition, and I have these conversations. Once you get in and set such a high bar of where you want to go, things start to create and open up, right? It could turn into something. It could turn into a coaching position. Who knows? I mean, it definitely could.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was noticing that yesterday in my swimming, because the gym had gotten closed for a few days because of a tourney going on at the college. And so I went and swam at another pool that I don't normally swim at. And for the first time while I was in this pool swimming, I pushed myself to swim harder, because it was in my head me getting stronger and healthier on the basketball court and treating my body, properly, and allowing my muscles to decompress and heal a little bit, to get back out on that basketball court the next day and be just a little bit better for having swam really hard for an hour that day.
Sure.
And so you're right. It does. It pushes you. It pushes you to do things and out of your comfort zone. Once you start chasing dreams, that's the only way. That's the only way you're going to get there.
So we talked about attitude and mindset. I wanted to talk. So this, and you may have already covered philosophy, of kind of how your general philosophy of things. You said have fun and be kind. Do you have other things that you think as a general philosophy in the way that you treat and do things moving forward? Since this heart failure.
I do have quite a few of them. Picking just a few nitpicks out, like just picking a few random ones out. There's a humility that came with what happened. And I really try hard to not let myself buy into my own hype. It's very important for me to stay grounded as well. One of the side effects of like being what I had to learn myself so well mentally and emotionally, and I had to face demons. Some of them romantic, some of them lifestyle, whatever it was. I had to face those demons and really just find a way to move past them. And it gave me a unique ability to be able to see other people's perspective when if you're being honest and really admitting to your shortcomings, then you can start seeing what you did to other people, and where you were wrong in situations. And once you are able to take those situations and see what was done wrong, then you pull the good parts out of what happened, and you just you learn your lessons. You teach yourself whatever you need to teach yourself from that trial, that tribulation, and then you just burn it behind you. the past is just the past. You really, the only thing you have control over is yourself and what you do in this particular space, in this particular day. And the past really holds very little utility other than remembering the fond memories and being able to learn from it. um, I don't think I would have become this type of person that I am now. This I have a massive amount of self-love for myself because I am able to make a lot of positive impacts on people's lives now. I just make sure that I bring positivity to every situation. Um, there's a lot of glass half full, glass half empty scenarios that pop up in life. There's a lot of gray areas, and you have to choose the path and which one's going to matter most to you. And the choice that you make to see it as either the glass half full or the glass half empty determines how you react to it. But it also, kind of shows a little bit about who you are and who you want to be as a person. And so, in general, it's hard to be a positive person in 2023 sometimes. There's a lot of negativity being spread. Uh, it's in our face all the time. We run at a ridiculous pace in our lives with technology the way that it is now. Our brains aren't really equipped to handle it yet. And yeah, man, I mean, being positive became a very important goal of mine. Um, that's what type of impression do you want to leave on other people? And that's the impression I want to leave. I want them to ideally spend time with me and their day be better off for doing that. You know, and if I'm able to accomplish that, then I'm really satisfied with where I am at as a human being. And so that's a big philosophy of mine.
So we've got philosophy underlining, religion. So let's talk a little bit about, does religion play a role in any of this? And I'll tell you one. I can push back on things because I like to kind of banter and debate things. Positivity is obviously what we want to see in general from most people. We don't want to be around negative people. But man, I tell you, my problem is I'm overly optimistic about things, that I see past, I see solutions, I see we're going to get there. And sometimes there are things that are glaring that I miss because I'm already past those things. And they end up being massive roadblocks and costing me a lot of time or money later. Having people that can see those things and reflect on them and make sure identify missing opportunities, and they could be considered pessimistic up front, but more realistic about, that is sometimes something that keeps me grounded, because otherwise I would fly everywhere and with crazy indirection.
I completely agree with you 100%, to be honest with you. You can't just be positive for the sake of being positive. It's got to be the right type of positivity. And typically that comes in the form of support. Whether that's emotionally, mentally, physically, spending time with people. But yeah, no, you have to, I always say, I really live by the expect the best, prepare for the worst mentality in life. I don't want to get blindsided anymore. I've gotten blindsided by life a couple times now in the past few years, trying to pick myself up off the ground and get myself going to where I really feel like I'm capable of getting to in life. And no, if you can't see both sides of it, then you're probably going to get taken advantage of, and B, you're not going to grow into the type of person that you're capable of growing into if you take that honest moral inventory of yourself.
All right, we're kind of coming up to the end, so let's come back to, you went to Jesuit. It gave you kind of an initial view of Christianity through the Catholic lens. Is that something, do you think that help or hurt you view the world or view Christianity? What do you think that took to you?
That was actually kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Well, this is the space we can do it. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm ready. No, I'm like, so I honestly believe that teaching someone to memorize the Bible is not really an effective way to bring kids into the Christian and Catholic faith. Um, and so I almost thought it was a hindrance having religion classes and teaching it like extra like curriculum. It almost normalizes it in a way, and that I think for what you would like people to have, that faith in Christianity, that faith in God, um, that if you're going to push religious curriculum, you should push it in a way that helps people understand exactly what it is that they're getting themselves into, not memorize or have, every year we had religion courses from 5th grade to 12th grade for me, and really memorizing Bible passages and all this thing, like, or like going home with homework, and having to do all of these different things. It just makes it another course, and there were times I am not, yes, obviously, I'm not a Christian or a Catholic, but I also don't think that it's impossible that could be a possible reality of what could happen next. I kind of take the view that I don't have all these answers, that human beings may not be capable of the actual answers that we're seeking beyond what's next.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we don't know or understand. I mean, that's just part of, I look at what you went through. Certainly I can consider it an absolute miracle, which is above and beyond what we are capable of understanding and what the doctors even are capable of understanding. To me, that creates that, looking at that, wow, how could I be here today if there was no God, right? And that's the way I might look at it. Another thing would be the body is so incredibly complicated. You're doing minor adjustments that have major impacts. And all of our systems have to work together or we're not breathing and living. That incredibly complex function of our systems working simultaneously at every second we're alive is nothing short of a miracle to me as well, even such a finite way of thinking through it. So it would be easier for me and have less faith to just think that we came from pond scum and everything happened for a reason. That would be incredibly difficult for me to swallow and understand and buy in, because the amount of faith it would take to believe that would be, I can't even imagine. It's just easier for me to say, I don't know. There's something greater than what we know. And the fact that I'm breathing today is testimony that there's something that's keeping all of us moving forward for a reason.
I don't even understand completely why evolution is looked at as as refuting God. Like, why could God not have created this world where evolution was a natural occurrence and that eventually led to human beings? And
well, there's a lot of reasons for that. That specifically I could probably even address. But I mean, if nothing else, we are the only form of animal that has a soul. And monkeys don't. Like, we couldn't have come from monkeys. Monkeys don't have soul. They don't have a purpose or a drive in life to live. Like, we distinguishedly have driven purpose. We look after each other. We build each other. We grow each other. Other species are at the absolute basic level. They eat, poop, and sleep. I mean, beyond that, they don't have much ambition in life. I don't think there's a problem for that. Evolution, I do believe, is a part of our life. We have things that have evolved over time, but they just don't cross species. That's where that problem is where I start leaping from, bats to lizards back over to monkeys. Then now we got humans coming out of it. There's no evidence that ever happened. But you do have, white moths being weeded out because of the dark moths have better chances of living. And so they kind of weed that type of moth out. That does absolutely happen through evolution.
I mean, I get what you're saying. But my point is more like, to me, in my head, God's plan could be something completely different. You're coming from the perspective of you having a doctrine, though. I don't particularly have a doctrine when it comes to religion. So I think my concepts are a little more broader and less focused. You have a faith that, which honestly I envy in some people. Like, what a gift to have in life, to have something that comforts you, that you really believe in. It's a wonderful thing. I don't dissuade religion if it's used in a healthy way. I don't even necessarily think of myself as not a religious person. Like you said with the heart failure, a lot of things had to line up correctly in life for me to overcome this heart failure. I needed a lot of things to break right. I needed to put in real, some real work on myself. This was not free, but I look at just all of the coincidences along the way, all the trials and tribulations that I went through earlier in my life that prepped me to be in this moment. All of the things that life has given me, my wonderful support system around me, the family. There are things that are very spiritual in my life and that I see in my life. And so I do have a spirituality of sorts. And I do potentially believe in a higher power and a God. I just think that sometimes religions give off these fairly conceited notions, like animals not having a soul, for instance. I think that's a very conceited notion for humans to have, to think they're so much better than all the other animals. You could argue this, we are the most parasitic race on this planet, and I don't even think it would take much to argue that compared to all the other wildlife and animals that are, getting squeezed out and everything by this parasite that is humans, potentially. Like, I'm not saying that that's how exactly I would believe, but animals have all these different, very unique personalities. And I just think that if everything was driven by instinct and they didn't have any free thought at all, that I think you'd see a lot more stock repeat behavior instead of some of this higher intelligence from some species that you'll see. And so it makes me wonder, it makes me wonder.
Well, let's do this because we are coming up on an hour. How do we learn more about you? Are you on social media? Is there a way to connect with you?
So, yes, I at Instagram at the Uncle Sassy, exactly how it's spelled, and then also on TikTok at the Uncle Sassy. I am not really on TikTok yet, so I wouldn't expect anything to be updated there. But the Instagram is something that I really want to start updating. I have no qualms with admitting that I was a broken person at one point after the heart failure. And I really, I was at the lowest point that I've ever had to be at in my life. And I've not only bounced back, but I've bounced back in a way that's recaptured and re-energized and rejuvenated me. And so you'll start seeing videos about diet, some of the stuff that I do on exercise. I'm even going to be putting singing and dancing videos on for people to see. What's the harm, and if anyone's able to relate to that struggle, to feeling broken, and I just want to be this positive beacon, on social media if I'm going to participate in it at all, because normally that is a very toxic and negative space. So
it's funny. I think about one of the things you said is that you feel like you're in this catch-up mode at your age, trying to accomplish things that others far younger than you are at. But going through that experience, if you had not gone through that experience, you'd be much farther behind today. I don't know
Yes.
if you can follow me. Like, it happened 2 years ago. And if it did not happen 2 years today, nothing really would have changed in your life, right? It takes sometimes hitting that rock bottom to press reset and say, it's all or nothing now. It's time to get real. We're not just taking up space. Now we can actually impact and help others.
Yes, precisely. That's exactly how I feel and my mindset towards that. And real quick before we go, I did see the Pelicans Mavericks game at the Smoothie King Center. We tagged y'all, but Luka didn't play the second half. Real quick, I have a real quick question. Kyrie Irving, how did you feel about it from your perspective as a Mavericks fan? And then I'll give my thoughts on.
You're talking about having him traded to our team?
Yeah, were you excited
Well,
about
I'll say the obvious thing everyone says, right? Everywhere Kyrie goes, everyone gets worse. I mean, that's a problem. I can't put it on him because he's certainly talented. But what happens is when you build a team with a guy that's particularly talented, if we put that much energy in another guy, we could have maybe even had the same results and got the same results by having a guy that's still not that guy. You put a lot of these NBA, it's kind of like taking a quarterback in the NFL and putting him in college. You'll smoke everyone, even if he's a backup. At some point, he'll have the skill level to compete, but that doesn't mean he can take a team from where they are and make them better. I certainly think he's better than the supporting cast we had. I just don't know if for some reason him bringing his type of chemistry to the team for some reason does not lift the team up and move it forward. And it's so early, but I don't know if he'll make it to next season. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. So my take on it is he really gives y'all a stopgap Band-Aid when Luke was off the court. Because your team, once y'all lost Jalen Brunson, that was a big loss for y'all. Just having that second guard that could lead the offense and run the offense when Luka wasn't on the court. So you really saw a lot of, they start the game together, they finish the game together as they should, but throughout the middle of the game, they almost stagger those two. And so Irving does really, he's a very necessary. I like the move on paper. And I like the energy that he was bringing to the court. He seemed to bring a very team friendly attitude. He seems to be on his best behavior right now. And hopefully that's a continued thing. My worry for y'all is down the line in the playoffs. I mean, you're just going to need those two guys to be, maybe the first and the third best player in these series to win any playoff series. And it's weird. Y'all's depth is just so weak. I watched the defense that we played. We double Luka, we double Kyrie, and make your role players beat us, and they just couldn't hit shots. They just weren't. Your role players just aren't very good, and so you're very, very top heavy. And Luka needed help. They needed to try something because in modern day NBA, these stars will start asking out if things are looking like there's no solution or no end in sight. So y'all kind of had to swing for the fences on that one. I really like Josh Green. He's a really good player. He really buckles down and plays defense. He seems like his offensive game's growing a little bit. So hopefully, if he could develop into something, then y'all might be cooking with a little gasoline. Y'all, I love Luka. His game is incredible. And Kyrie's still an insane talent. I hear NBA players talk about him being the most talented basketball player, or at least guard in the league, So I'm at the rate our season's going, I'm gonna be cheering for y'all in the playoffs. So I really hope it would. Y'all are gonna need heroic performances from those two. There's just nothing behind them. Christian Wood just looks lost out there. It just doesn't look like he's mentally got it. Losing Dorian Finney-Smith, that kind of sucked. So I think y'all will be fun in the playoffs. I think you're going to see your two stars try to win series on their own, and they're good enough to potentially do it. So I don't know about title contender or anything like that, though. It's going to be hard to do it 4 times in a row.
Oh, maybe we can get you off the bench and hit some threes for us. Get us a little closer.
Yeah. Give me another few months.
A few more months.
That's
I'll see
it.
what we can work out. I'll talk to Kid.
I am at NBA range now. I can take NBA range threes at a fairly reasonable clip. So getting there, man. I really appreciate just having me on. You really guided the conversation pretty well, and this is new for me. You know, if people like it, I'd be glad to come on and talk about just random topics that you would be interested in too, Shaune, and not just, my particular life and my story.
No, this was good. I loved it. Thank you, Eric, for doing this and jumping on with us. We will have it recorded, posted, and then we'll kind of see where it goes, man. Thank you. I appreciate you jumping in.
Yeah, absolutely. I had fun. This was a blast. I love trying new things. Always try new things, people. That's the only way you're going to push yourself.
All right. Thank you.